It's Jody with All About the Harvest, and today I'm coming at you with a video about canning jars. Today I'm going to be comparing the difference between the new Azure standard canning jars and the ball canning jars. Now specifically I'm doing a comparison between the half-gallon jars. I find that half-gallon jars are a little bit more difficult to find, and I liked that Azure had half-gallon jars. Now I only use half-gallon jars for canning grape juice and apple juice because that is the only safe, tested, and approved canning recipe for half-gallon jars. However, I use half-gallon jars a lot when it comes to my dehydrated goods. So I dehydrate a lot of my own foods and herbs and different things from the garden, and I will put those in half-gallon jars. So I do use them a lot from a dehydrating perspective. So if you're not sure of what Azure Standard is a company where you can buy directly from them. They have so many different products, anything from canning things to bulk food, to gardening supplies, to household cleaners, to supplements, etc. And I frequently do Azure videos on things that I buy from them. I usually buy from them every 2 to 3 months, and then I do a video showing you what I got, because sometimes there's things from Azure that you wouldn't even expect that they sell, for example, books, things like that. So I post videos on that, so if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, hit the subscribe button and follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook so you can learn a little bit more. So one of the things I got in my latest Azure order was canning jars. Now I got a lot more than just canning jars, but this video I'm talking specifically about the Azure canning jars versus the ball canning jars. And one of the things I really like about Azure is that you can get their jars with the rings in the lids or without the rings in the lids. So if you don't know, rings are reusable, but the lids are not. I have a lot of rings and I happen to have a lot of lids as well. So I didn't need to pay extra for the rings in the lids. So with Azure, if you purchase them without the rings in the lids, it is a slightly lower cost than if you were to get your jars with the rings and lids on. I like that option. Ball doesn't offer that option in any of their canning jar sizes. Azure does offer it in all of their canning jar sizes. Now, as of today, which is October 12th, Azure offers half-gallon sizes, quart sizes, and the pint-sized jars. So what I did is I ended up just getting them without the lids and the rings. One of the things I liked about Azure as well is their box. So as you can see, this is what the ball box of canning jars looks like. It's just a box, and it has the jars in next to one another. I took one out so that you could see them side by side. But there's no divider, and it just has this light little plastic covering on it. Now with the Azure box, one of the reasons I really liked the Azure box is because it does cover them. So as you can see, there is a top, but the other thing about them is that their boxes have dividers. So the jars are divided, which is nice from a storage perspective. And you know, when these are not in use, it'll be really nice to have them in this box with this divider. So I like that because ball doesn't have that. That was one of the reasons I wanted to check out Azure. So that was really nice. Now let's talk a little bit about the jars. As you can see, so the Azure's on my left, on your right, and then the ball's on the other side. And as you can see, hopefully the jars are the same size. One of the things that I immediately can tell is difference is the ball is more of like a clear jar. The Azure is clear, but it has like a greenish tint to the jar itself. So that is just a little bit different in the color. This definitely has a green to it. This is definitely clear. One of the other differences that a lot of people were talking about with Azure was about how their logo is etched inward on the jar, And I was a little surprised. So where it says Azure canning up at the top here, that is outward. Just like when you touch the ball jar, the words are outward, they're not etched inward. With Azure canning down here and with this logo on the back, it is etched inward. But when I put my finger over it, it's not completely flat. Like you can feel the bumps because it's going inward. I thought that this was more of like a picture etched on glass, but like not deeply etched. This is deeply etched. Now, if I put my hand on the inside, it does come in just a little bit. It's not completely flat like some people had thought, whereas like the ball, you can feel it's popped outward, where this is going inward. So that being said, you could get food particles and stuff kind of stuck in there. I don't know that that's going to be that big of a deal. You just soak it and clean it pretty well. I don't know how much food you'd actually get on the outsides of these, but I'm just making a point to let people know it's not completely flat like I had been led to believe. Now, the other thing about this though, on the sides here, there is nothing aside from the word canning up at the top. So this is completely flat, whereas on the ball, it has the measurements, in the milliliters or in cups. So if you were to put a sticker or a chalk label to put what is in your jar, with Azure, you could really do that on either of the sides because it's completely flat. With ball, you have to find a spot to put it, and sometimes it does go over the words or the outward etchings, and so then your sticker or label isn't necessarily flat. So that's one of the differences. The other thing is thickness and quality and heft. To be honest, Azure actually feels heavier and thicker than the ball jar, which I was actually surprised with. I think we think ball is the best, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I was surprised that Azure feels thicker and heavier. Okay, so because I said it felt thicker and heavier, I wanted to test that theory. So I weighed each one of these on a kitchen scale, and the Azure one was slightly heavier than the ball jar. So it is a little bit heavier than the ball jar. Other than that, I don't really see any additional differences. They both seem like very quality jars. Again, I like that the Azure box is divided and fully covered. Again, you can get them with lids and rings and without lids and rings, which is nice, and there is a price difference, less expensive price if you are getting the jars without the lids and the rings. That being said, price-wise, the first 2 months when they came out, they were at a discounted rate, and I only purchased the half-gallon jars because, again, half-gallon for me is a little bit harder to find, and the price point for their half-gallon jars on sale was applicable to half-gallon jars that I could get in my area, so I wanted to try them. The price that I paid for the half-gallon jars from Azure Standard without the lids and the rings was $13.36. Now, that was when it's on sale. That price is a little bit higher now, but you might be able to catch them on a sale. And in your area, these jars might be more expensive. So I find that there are some things in my area where I can get them locally for less than I can get them from Azure, but I do know a lot of people that they can get them from Azure cheaper than they can get them from locally. So you'll need to go onto their website. I will link that in the description below. You can check them out. You can sign up for an account. It's completely free. There's no fee. You can order whenever you want. There's no membership or anything. It's just a way to directly order from them. Now remember, they have a lot more than just canning supplies. They have household supplies, gardening supplies, personal care items, vitamins. I get coffee from them. They get all sorts of things. Again, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can get my next video that I'll be creating on Azure and what I ordered from them in this latest haul. So my final thoughts on these are that I think Azure is definitely a brand that you can trust as far as quality from their jars is concerned. I love the fact that the box is closable and that it has the divider in it. I really appreciate that. I do like that both sides are nice and smooth, and so I could put a chalk label on there to label what's inside it. I do label what is on the top, but it is nice to be able to see just when it's on the shelf to see exactly what it is. And I do like that it feels like it is heavier and thicker, and obviously as I weighed it, it was slightly heavier than the Ball brand. But I also know that Ball is great, and I will definitely not hesitate to continue to buy Ball. For me, in this particular case, I would purchase whichever one was less expensive because I believe that they're both quality, and that is what I will do going forward. I hope you found this video useful. Again, if you like videos like this, please go ahead, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell button so you will be notified when I post a new video. Again, it's Jody with All About the Harvest, where I teach you how to grow, use, and preserve your harvest. And until next time, happy canning.